This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome to all of you wherever you are. We're in South Africa, in Johannesburg. My name is Eben Jansen, and we are celebrating 20 years of freedom here in South Africa today, this week as well. So it's a special time. Newsroom, of course, streaming live on YouTube as we speak, and we'll do so for the next hour. The entire show can also be watched on demand on our YouTube channel. Today, well, as I said a little bit earlier, we look at 20 years of freedom here in South Africa. There's the unveiling of a Mandela bust at Parliament. We'll look at that. And then what further afield, property prices in Kenya saw a real spike in the first quarter of the year. We'll look at the reasons behind that. But first, let's take a look at the top stories. President Jacob Zuma says South Africans will never forget the solidarity they received from foreign nationals in the liberation of the country. President Zuma handed over national orders to more than 50 people in Pretoria. At least 10 foreign dignitaries, including musicians Quincy Jones and Jerry Dammers, received medals. Others who were honored include Caster Semenya, Lucas Sithole, Jomo Sono, Zakes Mda, Rashid Lombard, Dr. Alex Berain, and Raymond Ackerman. President Zuma said South Africans need to set aside political differences and stand together in celebrating what has been achieved in the past 20 years in this country. He delivered the keynote address to mark the 20th anniversary of Freedom Day at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. President Zuma called on citizens to embrace the peaceful democratic transition. He did admit that a lot more still needs to be done in the country. The celebrations were held under the theme South Africa, a better place to live in. Peacekeeping troops have escorted over 1,000 Muslims out of the CAR capital, Bangui. The move prompted looting in a country torn apart by religious violence. The Muslim community are being moved to the north, where they might feel safer. But some leaders fear the decision will make permanent divisions that have led to talk of partition after 18 months of conflict. Meanwhile, the global aid group Médecins Sans Frontières says 3 aid workers have been killed in the country. Now, 27 April 2014, yesterday, marked exactly 20 years since the first democratic elections were held in South Africa, marking the first time all South Africans were allowed to cast their votes. The elections paved the way for a new constitution for us here in this country. The country has since moved on, and 20 years later, the fifth democratic elections will be held on the 7th of May. Political leaders have reflected on what's been achieved and what still needs to be done. Now, Michael O'Donovan is a South African researcher with extensive experience in the field of applied social research. Most of his research is conducted for specific clients, many of whom are reluctant to share findings with the general audience. His research covers a range of socio-economic issues, including crime and the criminal justice system, service delivery, regional development, health and nutrition, as well as voter behavior. He joins us in the studio this morning to reflect on 20 years of our democracy. Michael, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
20 years of democracy in South Africa. Just reflect back your views, research-based one would think, positive, negative, and the challenges that we face as a nation going forward.
Well, just to start off with my current capacity, I'm working for an institute called the Multi-Level Governance Initiative, based at the University of the Western Cape. And in that capacity, really concerned about issues of governance. And we are looking back at doing the retrospective. And obviously, things are substantially better than they were in 1994. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah. Services, water, political rights, gay rights, everything, a well-founded constitution.
Good story to tell then.
It's a good story to tell, with a caveat. Is the comparison to 94 our yardstick?
Yeah.
You know, is it sufficient to say we're doing better than we did under the apartheid regime? Many would typify the apartheid regime as a genocidal state that served actively to disenfranchise and undermine black people. Now, to say that we're doing so much better is a bit hollow.
Yeah.
So we really have to say, how well could we have expected to have done?
What are the ideals that we're striving for?
What are the ideals we're striving for? And also there's another yardstick that we need to examine. Over this roughly the same period, Africa as a continent has made equally dramatic strides.
Yeah.
In 1994, South Africa was one of 3 middle-income African countries in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Now, half of sub-Saharan African countries are middle income.
Yeah.
Water services.
And the outlook for the other half is quite good as well.
Well, at this stage, it actually looks a lot better than for South Africa. South Africa, in a sense, really drags down the GDP growth of sub-Saharan Africa. Zambia, Rwanda, whatever, are vibrant economies compared to us.
Yeah. Now, one thing that always pops up in polite conversation in South Africa, whether you're standing at the briar fire or whether you're sitting in your lounge having conversation with your friends, is crime and the criminal justice system. What does the research numbers say about this and where we are now with view of 20 years?
It's a very much similar story. The crime rate has dropped every year since approximately 1994. The drops have been most pronounced in several of the violent crime categories.
Yeah.
But that's a worldwide phenomenon. If you look at the UK last year, crime rates dropped 15%. So our expectation, yes, we would like our crime to drop. It is still high, but it's dropping virtually everywhere.
What do the numbers say? Is it a question of technology making crime fighting easier and making it difficult to be a criminal? Or is it a question of clamping down on criminals and criminal activity globally?
There are a number of explanations that have been forward, and some range from the lead content of petrol to some more rigorous studies.
Yeah.
And the more rigorous international comparisons indicate that the root cause of the drop in crime elsewhere has really been people's investment in their own security.
Yeah.
Whether it's vehicles or homes, there's
an all-round focus, really. What about the dissenting voices that we see in a country like South Africa now, both sides of the fence? And what do you read, and what does the numbers tell us about things like service delivery protests, for instance?
That is probably the field that we should be most worried about. Service delivery protests have been on a gradual increase for quite a while now. And we need to really get past the normal explanations that we present for the wrongs of South Africa. Whether it's crime or protest, we normally say the root cause is really inequality or poverty.
What about health and the quality of life of the general populace?
During the post-1994, we've actually had a really mixed experience. For the first 5 years, the first 10 years, the life expectancy of South Africa dropped markedly, most primarily due to the HIV/AIDS pandemic. But with the new administration, that reversal has been turned around, and we are living longer, we're living better, we are living healthier. So we have had major strides in the last 7-8 years in terms of health.
Finally, you touch on the economy a little bit, but briefly just touch on it. Where do we sit 20 years on? And when we look at our economic outlook, can we sort of climb on the coattails of the rest of Africa and ride through this little tough patch that we're going through?
We've got no reason really to think why anything should be different in the future. The African growth is really going ahead irrespective of our role.
Yeah.
We need to really be worried about what our future is. The economy is growing, but if it's growing without jobs, that growth is going to be undermined by service delivery protests, unemployment rates, and the like.
So in conclusion, you're saying to us, our country, after 20 years, yes, has a good story to tell. But like everywhere else in the world, you should always look at the red flags that are out there.
It reminds me of a quote that I was looking up yesterday, and it says that the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. We've got to keep working away at it.
Fantastic. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep that one with me. Eternal vigilance.
Eternal vigilance.
That's the price of freedom. Thank you very much. Michael O'Donovan, who's a South African researcher who's worked extensively in the field of applied social research. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Of course, yesterday at Freedom Day celebrations at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, President Zuma said a lot more still needs to be done for the country. He delivered the Freedom Day address to mark 20 years of democracy. The 2014 celebrations was held under the theme, South Africa, a better place to live in.
An auspicious occasion, celebrating a historic landmark.
But why did students fight against such a lack of love?
Hundreds converged here from early hours of this morning, savoring the post-1994 gains. Lest we forget, this freedom was not free. It was fought for by blood and sweat. President Jacob Zuma emphasized that while this country faces major challenges, a lot has been achieved in the past 20 years.
We have made South Africa a much better place to live in. We should congratulate ourselves for all this hard work.
President Zuma said the government would continue to improve the lives of all South Africans. He didn't shy away from the challenges.
We are concerned that crime levels, particularly crimes against vulnerable groups such as women and children, remain of serious concern. This area will continue to receive our priority attention.
The president also paid homage to those killed during the liberation struggle. He urged all registered voters to keep democracy alive by casting their ballots on May 7. In Durban, thousands gathered at the famed Moses Mabhida Stadium. Colorful performances, the order of the day.
Things now are different. We have houses, electricity, free education. Even our kids at schools have meals.
The seminal moment in history 20 years ago at Inanda, where Nelson Mandela cast his vote. A stone throw away from the burial site of John Dube, the first president of the ANC.
It inspires hope that we will overcome all our problems and get to a point where all our people will have water, will have electricity, will have better life.
Official celebrations in Limpopo had political undertones. The premier condemned opposition parties for questioning the credibility of the IEC and its chair on the eve of the election. The ANC supporters who were there in numbers booed a COPE leader when he accused the government of not delivering services. Yolisan Jamela, SABC News.
Of course, today Parliament will unveil a bust of the first and former democratically elected President of South Africa, Nelson Mandela, in front of the National Assembly. The event also marks the 20 years of freedom and democracy, a departure from former apartheid and racially segregated South Africa. President Zuma is expected to deliver the keynote address there. For more on this occasion, well, we cross live to SABC's political reporter, Lucanio Calata, who is outside Parliament. Good morning, Lucanio. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Eben.
Lucanio, before, I know you've got a guest there that you're going to do an interview, but just set the scene for us quickly before you do the interview.
Eben, good morning. Yeah, as we said, yes, Parliament looks pretty much very special today. I mean, there are marquees everywhere, the posters and the hangboards that we saw during the memorial services for former President Nelson Mandela in December are back on. Parliament looks really transformed, looks really beautiful, and obviously it is quite a special day for the institution today. As you said in that intro, Eben, President Jacob Zuma is set to unveil a bronze bust of the president, of former President Nelson Mandela. I will speak in a few minutes to the parliamentary spokesperson, Uluzuko Jacobs, who will give us a little bit of detail just about the guests that are here, why this event is taking place, and just also what then happens from today onwards as Parliament, as the institution celebrates 20 years of democracy. Eben?
Lucanio, do you have any information for us on the bust itself? You know, it's apparently a multi-million Rand bus. But tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. Eben, I can tell you that the bust stands at about 2.2 meters high. That's just slightly above the height of your door in your house. It's a little bit wider than that, though. It comes in at about 1.5 meters. But the person that has a little bit more information is the parliamentary spokesperson, Luzuko Jacobs, who I think I will bring into this interview right now. Mr. Jacobs, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning to you. Good morning to the viewers.
Obviously, a very auspicious day in the life of this institution today. What can you tell us about this bust?
I start with the day. It's a beautiful day. It's a day like no other. It's a bittersweet day, though, I suppose for all South Africans, to be reminded about Madiba not being part of us, at least not in the physical sense, still brings some painful memories. But today, Parliament is going to be unveiling a bust to say to Madiba, thank you for all the selfless contribution that he has made. We owe it to the political craftsmanship, to the humanity, and to the selfless person that Madiba was, that we have got this institution called Parliament. So today, when everybody comes here, when the President unveils, witnessed by South Africans across the country, but also by those dignitaries and special guests that we're going to be having here today, it will be a day when Parliament will be making that statement again to say thank you to Madiba.
Tell us a little bit about some of the dignitaries, some of the special guests that will be visiting. Obviously, the Mandela family will be here.
Look, like you've mentioned, the President is going to be here. The Deputy President, we expect him to be here. The former Deputy President, Ms. Baleka Mbete, is going to be here. Of course, the Madiba family are the guests of honor today when we unveil this bust. We're expecting people from civil society organizations that we have drawn from around the peninsula. Quite a number of them, quite hundreds of them actually, I must say. Members from the diplomatic corps will constitute the corps from the international guests that we're expecting here. It's a cross-section, it's a variety of South Africans who are going to be converging here today to witness this beautiful moment.
All right. Once, obviously, the bus is then unveiled, it launches or it kicks off Parliament's program for the next 12 months or so, marking or celebrating 20 years of democracy. Is that right?
Our presiding officer, Speaker of the National Assembly, Mr. Max Sisulu, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mr. Mninwa Mahlangu, and their deputies, Ms. Noma India Mveketo and Ms. Thandi Memela, will be officiating today. And one of the things that they are going to tell us is what is Parliament going to be doing to mark this celebration, which is going to be drawn over a while, over a period of time, marking the 20 years of a democratic Parliament. This kickstarts that process. You'll remember that last year in December, Parliament had a joint sitting. It's an extraordinary honor for Parliament to convene. In fact, Parliament was in recess at that time to convene, and since that time, there's been thinking about how best Parliament can do this. So, Mr. Max Sisulu will today give us a bit more detail about how Parliament will be following up on this big moment of unveiling of this bust.
Fortunately for Parliament, even the notoriously fickle weather gods in Cape Town are playing ball today.
The weather gods are smiling upon Cape Town today. They are smiling upon South Africa. There is recognition, you see, on heaven and on earth, that this is a moment like no other. I hope we as South Africans also take cue from that and we embrace this moment for what it is, for what it means to all of us. This is Madiba we're talking about. This is our South Africanness we're talking about. Like I said, this is the author-in-chief of South Africa's great story.
But Luzuka, thank you very much. Please don't just stay with us for a little bit. Eben, that's it from us. Mr. Luzuka Jacobs, the parliamentary spokesperson, giving us a little bit of detail about the events that are likely to unfold from about 10 o'clock onwards this morning. I can tell you also a little bit more about the bust. Is that it's situated, or it's located on a plinth, a graphite plinth. As I mentioned before, that's about 2.2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide. Eben, I'm ready if you need any more information.
I am indeed. Thank you very much, Lakanyo. I'm sure you'll keep everyone updated on this platform throughout the day as to what's happening at Parliament when that bust is finally unveiled. We look forward to that a little bit later. Of course, that is Lakanyo Kalata, our political reporter down, at Parliament, giving us an update as to what's expected. This morning, of course, that bust will be unveiled of former President Nelson Mandela, and you can watch it on this very channel indeed. But let's take a look at what you are talking about on social media at the moment. Of course, everyone has something to say. No, M. Nchobololo says, never, never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Happy Freedom Day, he says. Beautiful quote. Thank you. Thank you very much. Kajal Bhagwandeen says, our flag does not fly because the wind moves it. It flies with the last breath of those who fought for our country today. Our freedom. That's simply beautiful. Mabine Siabe says, whenever we remember 27 April 1994, we must never forget how evil apartheid was. That it was indeed. Sometimes we can brush over the fact, but yes, it was a very oppressive and a very limiting regime. Blowback says, every South African must honestly ask themselves if we have truly been liberated or given a sweet, bitter freedom pill to swallow. Freedom is what you make of it, my friend. That is the law of this time. The Prime Minister, we have the Prime Minister of the UK saying, well, I'm honoured to congratulate the people of South Africa as you celebrate 20 years of democracy. We thank you. And there we have a lovely picture coming in. SA Gov News says, Freedom Day celebrations, GCIS 20 years of freedom. That's from SA Gov, South African Government News, of course, website. There you can keep all of the, well, we'll keep you updated as to what's happening, and you can see what's happening there. Of course, on our Facebook page, there's also a lot more different news, other stuff you can look at. The Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union, AMCU, is consulting its members on the latest offer from platinum producers. Let's hope this leads to some sort of resolvement. More on this story on our Facebook page. Then the post-mortem examinations on 3 South African children who were found dead in their home in London have proved inconclusive. The children's mother, Tanya Clarence, has been charged with murder and is to appear in court in Britain this week. More of that, all of that, actually, on our Facebook page. Now, yesterday, the country celebrated Freedom Day for the first time without our loving former President Nelson Mandela. Let's take a look back at a speech Madiba made on that historic day in April in 1994.
It is the realization of hopes and dreams that we have cherished over decades. The dreams of a South Africa which represents all South Africans.
Yes, it will be the very first time that South Africa will celebrate Freedom Day without the presence of our great leader, Nelson Mandela. Send us your contributions at SABC Newsroom on Twitter. You just saw our Facebook page, Newsroom, that's what it's called. You can go there. We'll be back with more on Newsroom after a short commercial break.
Mommy, where does meat come from?
That's a good question, my darling. All our meat must come from healthy animals.
It's our duty to make sure that the meat we eat is healthy and nutritious.
Before slaughter, animals must be inspected at registered abattoirs to make sure that the meat is healthy enough to be consumed by humans. Only inspected meat is marked with a stamp of approval. That is why it's important to ask our butchery where the meat comes from, and to look for the stamp of approval when buying meat.
Mommy, where do babies come from?
You ask too many questions, my darling.
Remember, uninspected meat is not safe meat. Your health is your responsibility. For more information, contact the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries at 012 319 7515.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom on SABC News. If you've not yet been to the Rand Show, This year, well then today is your last day as it draws to a close, only to return next year. The Rand Show is a truly iconic South African brand, a brand that's touched the lives of generations of South Africans. It's also the largest event of its kind on the continent. Now, to talk about this year's event that's almost finished, we're joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Expo Centre, Mr. Craig Newman. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Eben. Thank you for having me on the show this morning.
Last day today for the public to interact with the Rand Show. It's always a big event in the Gauteng calendar. How's it gone this year?
It's gone exceptionally well, as it does every year. You mentioned earlier on, Rand Show is an icon event, celebrating 120 years this year, and the show's gone exceptionally well.
How's it gone historically? Has it been bigger in the past? We get a sense that, at least I get a sense that it might have been bigger and more celebrated in the past than it is, but it could obviously just be a myth in my head.
Yes, it used to be, you know, the biggest event on the continent, still is, but much smaller than what it was, because like everything else, Rand Show's evolved. You know, there's so much more on offer on the Gauteng calendar. Yeah. But Rand Show still has the ability to pull in the families, which is the whole aim of the Rand Show, is a great family fun day out.
You mentioned the evolution of the Rand Show, and there we've got some pictures coming in now. The South African National Defence Force, they're really making a contribution to it. Just talk us through the contribution that the South African Defence Force did. They had a massive expo at the show this year.
Yes, the SANDF were a big role player in contributing to the success of the Rand Show, particularly over the first weekend. They do a thing called a capability display, which you saw some of the scenes of. And that is an awesome spectacle of what our SANDF, our Army, our Navy, our Air Force can do to protect this country. They use all their machinery, all their weaponry. They bring in their skilled soldiers. It's a real great spectacle. It lasts for about an hour to an hour and a half, and it really gives you a fun experience and a real experience of what happens in actual combat.
And how has it been received by the public at the show?
Absolutely enthused. I mean, over the first weekend, we had over 120,000 people come through. That's over the Easter weekend. Wow. And that was great. But over and above that, they have about a 10,000 square meter exhibit of, once again, all their armory, their weaponry, their machines. But coupled with this, they have very, very knowledgeable communicators that talk to the public and engage the public and tell the public why we have these things that we have. And it's been awesome just to see the kids using these machines, on these machines, you know, enthusiastic about these machines. Now you have these 8, 9, 10-year-old boys running around saying, I want to be a soldier, I want to join the SANDF, because that's the excitement they've built.
And that's, I suppose, is what the Rand Show, in the end, at the heart of it all, is all about.
Absolutely. It's about enthusiasing the public, entertaining and keeping the family together and enjoying a family fun day out, with something for everybody in the family to enjoy.
Yeah. Tell us about how the Rand Show impacts communities and betters the lives of communities around it and those that interact with it.
Over and above the spend that people come from all over Johannesburg and actually all over the country, because we get visitors from the Free State, from the Northern Cape, Western Cape, from KZN. So they come in with a lot of spend into the city and come and spend a day out to all the various people who are exhibiting at the Rand Show and buying products and contributing to their various businesses. Rand Show, over the period of 30 days, which is practically for the month of the Rand Show, employs over 3,500 people. And most of these people come from in and around the communities, around Nasrec, Soweto. So it's a great contributor to the economy.
A lot of people don't know that the Rand Show dates back to the late 1800s. Tell us a little bit of the historical context of the show and what it's sort of born out of.
Started out as a trade fair for farmers and agricultural industry, people bringing their products and their pride together and showcasing it. And most of these type of shows start out that way around the world. As we said, 120 years old Rand Show. But as it's gone along, it's evolved to become a real fun entertainment day, fun targeted to the family, giving the people an opportunity to shop and giving people a real great day out.
How's it competing with the sort of new types of festivals and concerts and the like that's springing up all over Johannesburg at the moment? Is it still holding its own?
Absolutely. 120 years, still attracting over 220,000 people. I think it's still holding its own. But I think the one way it's managed to stay fresh is, as the organizers, we have found the formula of keeping a family together. Now, realizing that Rand shows over Easter weekend, and Easter around the world is all about families coming together.
Yeah.
And we haven't dropped that formula. We've kept it that Rand show should be a family fun day out.
Finally, the highlights. What were the highlights for you this year? And what are the things people should be on the lookout for in the years to come?
Well, you know, the biggest highlight, once again, was the SANDF and their capability display over the first weekend. But we've got a thing called Snow World, which is snow in Joburg. It's been a great experience of real snow. This is a snow-making machine. We built the highest ramp. We built the longest snow slide. And people could really enjoy feeling and having a snow activity. So that's been a big attraction for me. Over and above that is Kitty's Kingdom and Animal Kingdom, which we've improved rapidly this year. There's been some entertaining little shows within those shows. There's been the snake show, the bird show. There's been a dog show. So, you know, it's those type of things that have intrigued me in a big way this year. Over and above that, we had some stuntmen out of Italy come and do stunt shows on a vehicle and motorbike, together with our local drifters, entertaining the more adrenaline junkies that out there that want to come and have enjoyment in an adrenaline environment.
And the planning has started already for next year, I would think.
Well, no, I think we'll take a little bit of a break first before we start putting our heads together for 2015. But I can tell you what we want to do is we want to focus on freshening it up again, giving it a new and starting another 120 years of a new and exciting Rand show.
Brilliant. Thank you for joining us today. Craig Newman is the Chief Executive Officer of the Expo Centre, where the Rand show, Africa's biggest show, been held for the last 120 years. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eben, and thank you to all the listeners. And if they haven't had a chance to come out, today's the last day.
Last rights today, so there you have it. If you haven't made it to the Rand show yet, well, last rights today. Closes tonight, so make your way down to Nasrec at the Expo Centre there. Now, let's take a quick look again at what you're talking about on social media. On Freedom Day today, Becca Harrington says, 20 years since the abolition of apartheid. Long live the Rainbow Nation. I think, no, we all agree with you. Ford NFS says, today I spent the day reflecting on where I would be without the fallen leaders who didn't give up. Freedom Day, hashtag. Minkiza says, happy Freedom Day, people of Azania. Gareth Noble says, I want to put it to you that true freedom is in Jesus Christ. We all have the right to an opinion, I suppose. Kadlejo says, I dedicate this day to honor all those who fought for our freedom and never got to celebrate this day. I support that. Happy Freedom Day, South Africa, indeed. Now, yesterday we celebrated 20 years of freedom. On the 27th of April 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election, marking the end of apartheid. The country and the world celebrated that day. Let's take a look back at how the international media reflected us.
For black South Africans, it is the moment to reclaim their forefathers' dignity. Here's ABC's Jim Laurie.
They had waited a lifetime for this day. A father carried to and from the voting station on his son's back. A mother arrived by wheelbarrow.
Hello. Yeah.
An emotional day for all.
It is very exciting. We are so excited, really. We can't contain ourselves.
Anything can happen to me after this, I don't mind. As long as I've cast my vote.
This day is a very big day for us.
Today was reserved for older voters and those with special circumstances. They voted with little help at old age homes, at hospitals, a special day for all. But here in Soweto and at many other places, things did not go quite as planned.
Well, 20 years ago, I remember I was an election monitor at the Gordon High School in Somerset West. Can you remember? Can you imagine that? Well, it feels like yesterday. We're going to take a short commercial break. Newsroom is back right after this.
Mommy, where does meat come from?
That's a good question, my darling. All our meat must come from healthy animals. It's our duty to make sure that the meat we eat is healthy and nutritious.
Before slaughter, animals must be inspected at registered abattoirs to make sure that the meat is healthy enough to be consumed by humans. Only inspected meat is marked with a stamp of approval. That is why it's important to ask our butchery where the meat comes from and to look for the stamp of approval when buying meat.
Mommy, where do babies come from?
You ask too many questions, my darling.
Remember, uninspected meat is not safe meat. Your health is your responsibility. For more information, contact the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries at 012 319 7515.
Welcome back. You're still at Newsroom here on SABC News. Let's take a quick look at our top stories. President Jacob Zuma says South Africans will never forget the solidarity they received from foreign nationals during the liberation of South Africa. President Zuma handed over national orders to more than 50 people in Pretoria. At least 10 foreign dignitaries, including musicians Quincy Jones, Jerry Dammers, received medals. Others who were honoured include Caster Semenya, Lucas Sithole, Jomo Sona, Zakes Da, Rashid Lombard, Dr. Alex Bahrain, and Raymond Ackerman. President Zuma also said South Africans need to set aside political differences and stand together in celebrating what has been achieved in the past 20 years. He delivered the keynote address to mark the 20th anniversary of Freedom Day at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. President Zuma called on citizens to embrace the peaceful democratic transition. He did admit that a lot more still needs to be done in the country. The celebrations were held under the theme, South Africa, a better place to live in. And peacekeeping troops have escorted over 1,000 Muslims out of the Sierra's capital, Bangui. The move prompted looting in a country torn apart by religious violence. The Muslim community are being moved to the north, where they might feel safer. But some leaders fear the decision will make permanent divisions that have led to talks of partition after 18 months of conflict. Meanwhile, global aid group Médecins Sans Frontières says 3 aid workers have been killed in that country. Finally, there's a new kid on the music event scene. The I Love Johannesburg Music Festival is becoming a reality later this year and promises to be an event unlike any other. The incredible lineup consists of some of the biggest names on the international scene, including Grammy Award winners, MTV Europe Music Award winners, and Billboard chart-topping artists. Now, we are joined by the founders of the event, TJ Steyn, good morning, and Gareth Van Ferrand from Steyn Entertainment. Good morning, guys.
Thanks for having us. Good morning.
Hi. TJ, I can start with you. Big straps up there. It looks like it's going to be a massive festival. Just tell us about the thinking and how you guys came up with it.
Well, it started as a way to really celebrate this cosmopolis that we live in, you know, Johannesburg.
Yeah.
And so it's a cross-genre music festival celebrating all walks of life and people and different music tastes, you know.
Yeah.
So the idea was to take the things you don't like about going to big events away.
Yeah.
Bad bathrooms, 45-minute queues for beers, you know, and nothing to do. So we just hope to make it a bit more fun for the end user.
Now, who's the sort of target market you guys looking at? The whole of Joburg?
Yeah, so the target market is really anyone between the ages of 16 and 30. You know, with the lineup that we've gone for, we've sort of gone for something that appeals to everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at a lot of festivals around the country, you might just see one big international or a very solid local lineup.
Yeah.
So what we've gone for then is a really strong international lineup that appeals to everyone, so that everyone can come out and have 12 hours of non-stop entertainment.
Is there letting the cat out of the bag a little bit early, giving us an insight who might be coming?
Well,
also sort of give us a broad strokes. Who are we looking at?
Well, we're looking at trying to, as I say, cater to as many different tastes as we can.
Yeah.
So we're going with rock, pop, hip-hop, R&B, all sorts of people, you know. So far, we've released Jason Derulo, Jessie J, and Fallout Boy. And we've got 3 more internationals coming. And then the local artist lineup, the key behind that is we like South Africa to choose. We'd like Johannesburg to choose.
Yeah.
So we're going to be running a competition with 5FM where you get to vote on who you'd like to see, and we'll make it happen.
And the response, there's seems to be a lot of events happening in and around Joburg at the moment, some smaller, some bigger. It must be very competitive out there. What's the word on the street?
Yeah, the whole eventing space is very competitive. But like TJ was saying, the whole cross-genred concept is something new to this country and something that we really want to try and strive to be the best at. You know, a lot of the concept is brought over from Europe and America.
Yeah.
So yeah, just trying to start something new and hopefully grow it into a long-lasting brand in the country.
What's the vision? Is it going to be the biggest festival in South Africa in 10 years' time?
The vision is we'd like to be the biggest festival in South Africa, and we'd like to be, you know, hopefully all over the country and catering to the entire country. You know, for me, I want the I Heart Joburg and potentially Cape Town, Durban, wherever else, music festivals to be about having a great day. I want people to not look at the lineup. I want people to think to themselves, you know what, I know this event is going to be a great day, a whole day to be there and have fun for 12 hours. I want you to go there in the morning and when your favorite band comes on, you think to yourself, how have the last 10 hours gone by and I haven't noticed?
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'd like. I'd like everyone to be able to enjoy the whole day together.
Gareth, there's a real move around the world to make these kinds of events a little bit more family-friendly. A lot of, especially in Joburg, I see a lot of the events that are really making it are the delicious type of festivals and the family-orientated festivals. Are you guys looking at making this a family event, or are you looking at maybe making certain elements of it family-friendly?
Yeah, definitely. You know, like a lot of the other events around Johannesburg, there are a lot of family-friendly events. We've been working really closely with EMS and fire disaster within Johannesburg, and just trying to make this as user-friendly and as open to all age groups as possible. So yeah, we invite everyone from moms, dads, kids to grannies and grandpas to come and join us.
Hopefully dads as well. Teacher, this quickly, you guys are massive on social media at the moment. You've got a real drive there. Just put up the Facebook page and you can talk us through the... There you go. I Heart Joburg, is that what it's called?
I Heart Joburg.
I Heart Joburg, not heart as in Afrikaans, as in hatred. No. I love Joburg. Just tell us about, you know, how people can get involved with the event, how they can connect with you on Facebook and so forth.
Yeah, so people can get us on Facebook. It's Stain Entertainment, Facebook.com/Stain Entertainment. They can find us on Twitter as well, @StainENT, where we're constantly chatting to the international artists. People can see they've been interacting with us as well. 5FM is going to be having a couple of interviews, telephone interviews with them. And they've actually just recently sent us a couple of video drops that we'll be posting up soon this week.
Video drops, that's from the international artists.
From the artists themselves.
And people can interact with you directly. If they've got any questions, straight on the page, everything happens there.
Any questions and suggestions, that's the key.
Yeah.
We want South Africa to come in and say, please help, you know,
this is what we want.
Add this, you know, this will make it fun. And then we're going to go ahead and do that.
Quickly, just recap, in conclusion, you've got about 30 seconds to a minute to just recap the event for South Africans, especially for people in Joburg.
So basically, we're going to have 12 hours of fun that we'd like everyone to come down for, and we plan on eventually becoming something for awareness as well. We're going to be engaging a lot with various charity partners and making people aware of things that need help in South Africa. So it's going to be a helpful thing as well as somewhere to have fun in the future.
A force for good.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, Gareth and TJ from Stain Entertainment. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. And we look forward to the I Heart Joburg event. I think it's going to be really cool. And there's a real space in Johannesburg for this kind of thing. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, before we go to Parliament for the unveiling of the Nelson Mandela bust, are we having a look at what's happening on our social media pages? No? There we go. Yes. And Paul says, Chelsea, Liverpool for who, for what, forget, whoop, whoop. Yep, Chelsea, you don't play with us. Yep, all the Chelsea people are out today. It's a pity that City will be winning the title in a couple of weeks' time. So it's official. You'll only be hated when you are top. Liverpool, you'll never win again. Oh, sorry, you never walk alone. That's the one. Jake Organ says, Chelsea Mourinho, loving Chelsea's victory. Jose is the ultimate nasty, villainous dude. And that's right, the man's good, man. You've got to sometimes, be a bit nasty. Good night, Liverpool fans. Heads held high, keep the faith. It's not over yet. Yes, that's what you've been saying for 24 years. Long may it continue. The opposite of how we want to play, it's not difficult to coach. 10 players in the 18-yard box. Brendan Rodgers. Chelsea forever, says Akmal. And, that's the tail of the tape as it is, I suppose. We're not going to sign off today. We're going to go to Parliament, where Lucanio Kalata is standing by, and they're going to bring us this very special broadcast of the unveiling of a 2.2-meter Nelson Mandela bust at Parliament. Lucanio, thank you very much. It's over to you.
Eben, thank you very much. Yes, and good morning and a very warm welcome to this special broadcast coming to you live from Parliament. Now, in about half an hour or so, President Jacob Zuma will unveil a bronze bust of former President Nelson Mandela. Now, the bust is situated just in front of the National Assembly, that building there behind me. It is the very same building where the former President Mandela was officially elected President of the Republic in May 1994. Now, I can tell you that the bust is about 2.2 meters high. That's just taller than the door in an average home. And it's 1.5 meters wide. It's standing on a granite plinth. This event was originally scheduled to take place on the 18th of July, which is, of course, former President Nelson Mandela's birthday. But the fourth Parliament would have none of that, so they requested that the date be moved to today for it to coincide, first of all, with the 20-year celebrations of our democracy, and also because if it had stayed on the 18th of July, it would have been on the top of the to-do list of the fifth Parliament, and as I've said before, the fourth Parliament would have absolutely nothing to do with that. Now, some guests have already arrived. Everything is, the official ceremony at least, is expected to start at 10, but guests have already arrived. I saw former President F.W. de Klerk arriving a little bit earlier on. I think that it was the President that just walked past me to take his seat right now. The parliamentary choir is already in full swing. And I think everything is now getting ready to that official moment where President Jacob Zuma will then unveil the bust of the President. And talking about the bust, my colleague Bulelani Philip did a little bit of research and put together a little insert on that bust. Let's take a look at that now.
Still wrapped up, ready to be revealed to the nation and the world, the bronze bust is mounted on a 2-meter granite plinth.
We acknowledge in a small way, by immortalizing Madiba within this precinct as one of the key contributors to the very establishment of this institution of Parliament.
Parliament has an array of symbols reflecting bygone eras, among them Queen Victoria, a reminder of the colonial British Empire, and General Louis Botha, the first Prime Minister of the Union of South Africa. With the Mandela bust, the journey to democracy will have come full circle. Bulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
Yes, Lucky, thank you. Thank you very much. I am now joined by Mr. Dali Tambo, who is responsible for having this bust here in Parliament today. Sir, good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
You come from the Tambo family. What an honor it must have been for you to be responsible for having this bust here in Parliament today.
Tremendous honor, and I felt very protective, as I always do when our company does any icon of our struggle, that you're recreating them, and therefore you must be as true to that person as possible and as true to the setting in which you're putting him. So this is a particular setting. It's Parliament. It's symbolic of People's Parliament and of the creation of that Parliament and of our first democratically elected president. So it's a different sculpture to the one we've done at Union Buildings, but for me it's as beautiful, even just as a piece of art. I think it's a beautiful piece of art, and my expectation is that people will enjoy it.
Tell us a little bit about the thinking process, the agriculture that goes into when you sit down and plan something like this.
Well, first it's a lot of consultations with Parliament and with the Speaker's team. And that involved the position of the sculpture first. Where should it be? Should it be inside or should it be outside? For a long time it was going to be inside. Then they decided that no, the public must enjoy it too and have access to it. And so then it was moved outside. So we suggested that it be where it is. We then had to deal with heritage impact. You can't move a leaf in this precinct without permission. So we had to tell them how deep we're going to go down for the plinth, consult about the wording on the thing, and then really just design how this bust should look with the artists, with the sculptors. And our instructions to them were he must be dignified, he must be presidential, he must still be the warm Mandela, but he must have a certain level of seriousness about the sculpture as well.
A lot then asked of the sculptor. Do you think he's come through? Do you think what will be unveiled in a few minutes' time captures the president in all of that?
Yes, I think it's beautiful, and we took Parliament there to the Foundry for them to view it, and all I saw was smiles. So I'm hopeful. I'm nervous, but I'm hopeful. I really think the two sculptors excelled themselves and have done a beautiful job.
All right. Mr. Dali Tambo, thank you very much, sir, for your time. We really do appreciate it. You may now go take your seat, sir. You don't want to be late. That was Mr. Dali Tambo, the person responsible for having the bust here of former President Nelson Mandela, and also, of course, the person and the company that was responsible for having the 9-meter statue of Nelson Mandela that is situated in front of the Union Buildings. Let's take a bit of a peek as to what it involved in erecting that statue.